Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. And you can see we have a live audience here, which is good because they may have to come and wake me up occasionally. I got up very early this morning to watch the beginning of the all that. Now I have red things in my head going on, all these red things going by like this and this and this. Wow. Those Cardinals march. All they do is march. They march in, they march out, they march in, they march out. They have all kinds of different outfits. So let's start from the most recent back. So the black smoke came out tonight. And I was glad to see it wasn't a faker. Because in some of the future, see, it's all black. Right away, you can see it's black. If this goes more than a day, in other words, if we have another session after tomorrow, I bet you we get one where it comes out white first. It happens in almost every selection of the Pope. I don't know if they do that to tease you or they do that because they say, and I've asked about it, that this is hard to do. They put a chemical in, they put the ballots in, right? And then they put a chemical in that'll produce the black, and they put another one that produces the white. But they don't put enough in. Naturally, it would come out white and then become black. So very often that first little puff is white and all the people in the square go crazy, crazy, crazy. And then you hear, oh. Well, this was almost definitely going to be black because they basically, after all the ceremonies today, they went in and they had their little card. I can show you what it looks like. I mean, it almost looks like the kind of formal cards, the very, very nice formal cards that you would send like a thank you or a short little note, usually on good stationery. That's what this looks like. It folds over. And there's a Latin on the top that basically says, this is my selection for the Supreme Pontiff. And everything is blank. And then there's a place that looks like a signature line. And on there, you fold it over, and on there you write the name of the cardinal or whoever you're selecting. And you're supposed to. They want you to do it in your signature, of course, but they like you to kind of, like if Trump did it, they wouldn't want Trump to do one of those things so you could figure out it was Trump. He's eligible. Every male is eligible, and you don't even have to be a Catholic. And he's close enough. He's an Episcopalian. So all they'd have to do is make him a Catholic, make him a priest, make him a bishop, and then make him the Pope. They used to do that. They used to select, some of those generals in the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages that led the papacy had some very effective generals when it was a papal state. It was a formidable army to be reckoned with. We could use them right now in a few of these places. We could use a couple of formidable armies. We need Pope Julian? But we'll find out. One of the popes was really a very successful general. The Papal States took up a lot of Middle Italy. Of course, it's all gone now, except the little piece there. So it began today, really, for us, about 4 o'clock in the morning, with them assembling for Mass, really. But here is the most dramatic of all. This is the cardinal, actually that's the bishop in charge, who is locking the door and basically saying in Latin, everyone exit. A classy way of saying, get the hell out of here. And if we find you, you'll be worse than excommunicated. I don't know what they'll do to you. Whatever they did to me in Catholic school. They'll have the nuns hit you with rulers. And I'm sorry I'm teasing around. I find this enormously impressive, this ceremony. You're either on one side or the other of these things. You either like ceremony, and then you're enormously impressed with this, whether you're Catholic or you're not. Or you hate ceremony, and you think, oh my God, it should be much more simple, and it should just be like everybody should show up in their jeans and have a little electronic voting machine contributed by, one of the companies I'm not allowed to mention right now. then we'll never know who the Pope is. The president will like this a lot. They use paper ballots, and they have been doing so for at least 800 years. If the Pope and the papacy use paper ballots, why the hell don't we use paper ballots? And they count them 3 times, actually. They do an original double count. In other words, 2 people, one person is reading it off, and then 2 different people are recording it. So if there's a mistake, they're going to compare it to each other. And then before they make a decision, they go through it again. And of course, if it's way off, the 2/3, they'll go through it real fast. But if it's close, and that's why it takes a little longer, if it's close, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb, because they might be right at the 2/3. And over the years, there's been a difference. At various times in the history of this system that they use, which this particular system is about 500 years old, used to be 2/3 plus 1. Now it's 2/3 right on the button, like Congress. There also was a period of time, if you went over a certain number of ballots, I'm going to say 12, they reduced it to a majority. And one of the recent popes put it right back. I think it was John Paul II, said, no, we can't, no matter how long it takes, we can't just have a pope that, just squeaks by. This is different than a democratically elected official. Majority's fine. That's what democracy is about. But the church is not by any means a democracy. Their objective, if you want the philosophy of it, and you may agree with this or not, but you've got to understand the mindset. And they may not all be true to this, because this is hard. They are not supposed to be, well, of course, yes, they're supposed to be selecting the successor of St. Peter and the head of Christ's church on earth. But they're supposed to be trying to discern the will of the Holy Spirit who acts through them. So this is a highly spiritual exercise for them. If they are, well, I'm sure they're all true believers, but as usual, some of them are probably more serious and more, I'm sure there are a couple that are a little conniving, and probably not a lot. There's a lot made of all the politicking that goes on, and it's exaggerated. Really, the rule is, if you politic, you're out. I mean, in other words, if one of these cardinals went up and said, please vote for me, that would be a sign that you're not capable of being pope. You don't have the humility to let the Holy Spirit operate through these cardinals. If you're asked and you want to state your qualifications, that's a different matter. So if another cardinal comes up to you and says, Ted, why do you think you'd make a good pope? If I were Ted's campaign manager, the first thing I would say is, I would never want to be pope. Because everybody that becomes pope doesn't want to be pope. And then I would say, but if I was, I am the most brilliant. I have the highest IQ here of all the cardinals. I speak 42 languages, not just 40. I've published in 30 of them, and it's really important that we have somebody who can communicate, like Pope John Paul II, who was an actor, and therefore I was an actor, and therefore I should be the Pope, because I'll be able to convert more of the world to the resurrection of Jesus. So yeah, you got a right to do that, but usually, and I guess you could construe this as politicking, you take a cardinal friend of yours, and he would be the one that pushes for you. And basically, you spend most of your time telling him you don't want it. I'm being funny about it, but it really is much more serious than you think. And they do take seriously what they're doing. And since that's the overwhelming atmosphere, you can't go against it, even if you're not quite up to that level, because they'll pick you out. So now I don't know how they arrive at these odds that they're doing. And I don't know if I don't find it offensive that the betting places are they betting on this, or are they just they must be betting on it, right?
Yeah, there's a betting market.
So They don't just give you these odds because Polymarket doesn't just give you these odds for the hell of it, right?
They're a very Christian institution.
So I could put
it's.
I mean, because I like the name the best, I could put my money on Pier Battista Pizzaballa.
We like him.
Now he's like the fourth choice. So if you want to look at the board, this is the most recent. This is the most recent percentages from Polymarket. So you're not going to make much on Paroline if he wins. He's the favorite. And very close, hanging in there, right behind him, is Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. Paroline is from Italy. He's the Secretary of State. He is he's the easy choice. He's the if we don't have a good candidate, let's go with Paroline. He's been the Secretary of State. He's been a high official in the Vatican. He could step into the role and he would know the mechanics of it immediately. His biggest issue, now he's listed as a liberal, but on a lot of issues, it's a little deceiving. His biggest problem is China. He is the one who negotiated some of the deals with China that has gotten China involved too much in the selection of bishops. And many Catholics and many Cardinals believe that this is horrendous. So do I. And of course, it's held up some of the bishops. And the issue is, well, you're saving the church in China. Well, stop being so frightened, Catholic Church. The first 15 popes were all killed. And that's how they built the biggest church on earth, by dying for their faith. And number two, you really think Xi Jinping, given the problems he has, is going to go kill Catholics with there being 1.4 billion Catholics in the world? Are you kidding me? I mean, he's suffering from having supported Russia against Ukraine. He hardly is going to kill a bishop. Now, will he kill 1,000 Catholics here and 1,000 Christians there and 2,000 Muslims here? Absolutely. He's doing it all the time. He's knocking off Christian congregations all the time. And because he controls so much of our media and so much of our government and so much of everything in America, we just don't report it. Like we're not reporting the riots going on in China right now, right this minute. We are now. We're beginning. Newsmax had a report on it. There was a mention of it in the New York Post, but you don't see it. I mean, this is a major story. There are major protests in Hong Kong and continually in 6 or 7 of the biggest cities in China based on the enormously difficult economy in China. And from all the reports that you can get from neutral sources, and that's hard in China. So you have to take all of this with a certain percentage of risk that it's not true, that it's intelligence. But the intelligence seems to show that they are blaming that Trump's tariffs are a brilliant strategy against China. Because they came into it with an extraordinarily weak economy and with a country that has had 3 years of authoritarian being told what to do, they are blaming it on him. They're blaming it on Xi Jinping. And all he's doing is coming up with a big hard line. Now, in case you don't believe me, I mean, I guess this was filmed in Hollywood. Of course, they wouldn't film it in Hollywood because China owns Hollywood. There's plenty of video that sneaks out showing that there are protests going on, and they are against Xi Jinping in particular. There also have been very suspicious removals of key figures in the Red Chinese Army, and the key figures are allies of Xi Jinping. And again, the theory is that the army is setting him up for a takeover. Don't know. In a society as censored as theirs, it's impossible to know if that's the correct interpretation or the government's interpretation that they're just getting rid of corrupt officials is the right interpretation. But I don't think the Catholic Church has to be as worried about the survival of the church in China so that it gives away its discretion to pick its bishops, its successors of the apostles, to the Red Chinese. Cardinal Parolin was the architect of that agreement. Cardinal Tagle, who is 20%, is at 20%, agreed with it wholeheartedly, which is even worse because he comes from the Philippines. The Philippines is a major enemy of China, kind of like, almost exactly like Japan. They want to take the Philippines. They see the Philippines see the taking of Taiwan as just a step to taking the Philippines. Also, China has decided that the whole China Sea, which they have named the China Sea, is theirs. But under international law, within 200 or 300 miles of Philippines, all around the Philippines, it belongs to the Philippines, not them. But they put their warships in there, and they shot and killed a Philippine Navy. The Philippines are more opposed to China than we are. And largely, we're not opposed to China because half of our Americans have been bought and half are brainwashed, except for you and me. And President Trump, of course. But Philippines are a major enemy of China. I'd list them. Well, number one has to be Taiwan, obviously, right? And Philippines and Japan tied for number two. Now, you're going to find it very strange that Vietnam is probably number four. Vietnam would, if it could wiggle its way out, but why do you think Vietnam was the first one to say 0-0 tariffs with Trump? Vietnam would love to get themselves out from under China. They've just been trying to do it for 800 years. So this is not something new. And also they have used against China very effectively the fact that China has supported Russia as like an example of a very big mistake that Xi Jinping has made. The third candidate is Matteo Zuppi. I don't know what he is, meaning is he liberal or conservative, or can he be described that way? Some of these people can't be described that way. The first two, Parolin and Tagle, have writings and statements that make it clear, what their positions are on these issues. And Tagle is quite a bit more left-wing than Parolin. When you get beyond China, he really is a establishment cardinal. He's probably going to be a little left, a little modern, but not much. Tagle, for example, is a major opponent of the Latin Mass. Parolin, as an Italian, can't possibly be. If there's an Italian that doesn't like the Latin Mass, they should have their heads examined.
Cardinal Matteo Zuppi is generally considered a progressive or a liberal figure within the Catholic Church.
So, that's 26, 46, 56, 57% are going for, well, maybe we put it this way, 31% clearly liberal. And if you take Parolin, now we go up to over 50%. Now, the conservatives, the most conservative is at the end. That's Peter Turkson from Africa, Peter Erdo from Hungary, who I don't know how conservative he really is. He's sort of getting described as a conservative because they all think, all the Western European idiots think that he comes from Hungary, so therefore he must be conservative. Turkson, like all the African bishops, is fiercely conservative to the point where they want exemptions from some of Francis's doctrines. For example, I don't think they would bless a gay marriage. When he created the authority to do that, I believe it's not mandatory. The African bishops, as a group, said we're not going to do it. And a number of the Episcopal African churches left the Episcopal Church. Some of them came over to the Catholic Church. Some of them established their own church. but they would not. It was a major break from the Anglican Church. I should have said Anglican. Episcopal is the American version of it, but so I would pick Turkson like that. Although I actually like Pete Zabala the best because I like his name, but he's not going to get chosen, and he is classically old-fashioned, and he also is quite. He's been in Jerusalem for 20 years. So he's quite sensitive on one of the major issues of the day. But he is 65 years old. And the fear is this would be a 20-year papacy. And that's a big risk if it turns out he's the wrong choice, right? So we'll see. If it happens tomorrow in the morning, it'll probably be one of the first two. If it goes beyond tomorrow, it'd probably be somebody that's not even on this list. And if it goes in the afternoon tomorrow, it's anybody's guess. So there you go. There's my, hope it helps you if you're betting on it. I must say, I don't know if I have this picture here. I'm going to show it to you this way. When we went to the Vatican about 6 weeks ago, they took us into the room right off the Sistine Chapel, which is the place where the new Pope is robed when he becomes the new Pope. It's a private little room. It isn't terribly well decorated. In fact, I guess to show you, they actually retain the old wall. They have like a part of the wall that's cut out, and not cut out very evenly, like somebody hit it with a hammer. And you can touch the old wall of the Vatican. And I'll show you where the room is if you can do it. And in that room, they now have moved, and we got to see them when they were in a further room in the back. The 3 new robes. This is very funny what they do. They make a small robe, a medium robe, and a tall robe. So we got a tiny Pope, we got a robe for him. We got a medium-sized Pope, we got a robe for him. And we got a big Pope, we got a robe for him. And these guys are like different in size. Pizza Barlow looks to me like he's about 6'2". And Tagle looks like he's about 5'4". So there's a reason they do this. Here's what the robes look like in case you want to see. I'm not sure I have see the 3? See the 3 different ones?
The 3 different sizes.
So the 3 different sizes.
Short, medium, tall.
And they got an Italian tailor. They are ready to make them fit. I mean, who are the best tailors in the world? My grandfather was an Italian tailor, so you better answer it right. He used to make suits.
Italian.
This way.
What?
He used to sew them.
Oh.
Sewing machine.
Hand sew.
His wife.
Wow.
His wife was one of the early members of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. She was terrific on a sewing machine. And every time he saw the sewing machine, he would say like some kind of a word in Italian, like means something like, oh my God.
The sewing kit.
Nobody should ever use a sewing machine. You have to make them got to put all the stitches by hand. It would take them like 2 to 3 days to make a suit. There are 2 that you both know from, well, you know one from being on the show, and you know the other because we've talked about them. But there are 2 major clerics who have been sort of, I don't know if they've been like defrocked. Defrocked means they take away from you the powers of the priesthood, but they've been suspended. And that's Bishop Strickland in Texas. He was suspended. Very unceremoniously suspended, basically because he questioned some of the same doctrines that we all question about the Pope. None of which, by the way, fall into the category of infallible teaching. So it was quite authoritarian to remove Bishop Strickland. And then, of course, our good friend, Father Pavone, was removed. And he was removed because they say he was removed because they considered what he did was blasphemous, and he was disobedient. I'll tell you what he did. He took a photo of the remains of a fetus, and he published it so that people would know what they're doing when they kill an 8-month-old child. And what he showed was a child. and they kill it one of two ways. If it's small enough, they suction cup it out. And if it isn't, they crush its skull. Now, why shouldn't people know that that's what their society does? And that it happens in Harlem so often that there are more black children that are aborted than are born. I mean, it's prevalent. And the idea that they don't do 6, 7, 8, and 9 month abortions is just dead wrong. And the idea that they don't let them die if they come out alive because they don't do anything to help them. In Minnesota, they actually changed the law not to give extraordinary help to a little baby that comes out that was luckily not aborted. Now, I don't know, you can have different views on this, but as a Catholic bishop, with the Catholic teaching on life, how do you remove a guy that is trying to let people face the truth, what he believes is the truth? So, never stopped me from having him on the show. Plus, he is a priest. He can do the sacraments, but he just can't do it publicly. And I think it is an example of, people say that, the progressive part of the church. I always think that is like, it's pure, it's pure 1984. Call it progressive. It's like calling Biden or Obama or Kamala progressive when they favor mutilating children. If that's progressive, I mean, that's going back to before the Middle Ages. I don't even know if the Middle Ages they would do that. That's regressive and immoral. Progressive means getting ahead. We're falling behind when we do that. But when we're killing 8-month-old children in the womb, and if a woman's having an abortion, and the abortion doesn't work, and the baby gets born, and you don't give it extraordinary care to keep it alive, which it needs, I'm sorry, you're a first-degree murderer. Now, I say that. I'm not a cardinal or a bishop or a priest. I don't know how a priest wouldn't say that. And I don't know what the hell these people around Pope Francis were thinking to throw Pavone out. So we'll see tomorrow what happens. We have some video we can show them of today. The ceremony was so beautiful that just the aesthetics of it alone are worth looking at.
By rank in the College of Cardinals, starting with
Can they hear me?
That is Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle,
Cardinal Bishop of San Felice di Cattolice Sento.
So that was Cardinal Tagle who we were talking about, and he was taking an oath. They all walk up, all 133 of them, and they put their hands on the ordo. The ordo is the it's the order of the ecclesiastical ceremonies they're going through, all in Latin. If you look at it carefully, you can actually read the top of it. They put their hand on it, and they take an oath to be guided by the Holy Spirit. And each one of them, all 133, do it before they go sit down in their chairs. I believe that's Cardinal Turkson, who we were talking about, taking the oath. I don't know who that is, who that bishop, who that cardinal is. But all 133 will do that. And then tonight, when they voted, which is why they say 20 minutes, I think it takes an hour. Every single one of the 133 gets up from his chair, walks up to that podium in the middle of the gathering, and takes the ballot and puts it on what's called a paten, and then puts it in the urn in such a way that nobody can see it. And so that has to take a while. Some of these guys, are 79, 78. They're not exactly speedsters. And they try very hard to keep it completely confidential. You'll see Well, you won't see it. I mean, if you watch one of the two movies that shows this, the Shoes of the Fisherman or the Conclave, you'll see that they write very carefully. And you can vote for yourself. You're allowed to vote for yourself. That is them entering the door of the Sistine Chapel, where they will not get out from beyond that gate and the rest of what lies behind them until they make a choice. Used to do that with juries, you know. You go back a couple hundred years, we used to take a jury and lock it up until they reached a verdict. Used to get verdicts a lot faster that way. Well, on another front, the president made a surprise announcement yesterday that the Houthis have thrown in the towel and that they are no longer going to attack. Now again, it still hasn't been clarified completely. It is clear they're not going to attack American shipping. Now, they have been saying that for 2 weeks. They've been saying that if America stops bombing them, they won't attack American shipping. Now, that leaves everybody else's shipping in Israel. The way the president described it yesterday, it seemed pretty clear they're not going to really disrupt the Red Sea because, of course, we don't want them as a priority to attack our shipping. But we don't want them to attack shipping in the Red Sea because right now, that is also playing havoc with the economy of, not us, because we only get about 8% of what we get through the Suez Canal. Most of it, if we get it through a canal, we get it through the Panama Canal, which China controls part of, and it isn't for very much longer. So really, if that's the concern, then there shouldn't be any peace with them if they're going to attack British shipping or French shipping or anybody else's shipping. The Red Sea should be a free passage, and the Suez Canal should be a free passage. And for a year or more than a year since the attack, they have really disrupted it to such an extent that they've created havoc with the price of goods going through there. Now, the other part becomes interesting. Are they going to continue to attack Israel? So, Ted or Stephen,
Yes.
if you'd like.
Yes.
What do you think? Do you think we should have a ceasefire or a peace with the Houthis if they don't attack shipping in the Red Sea, but they continue to attack our ally Israel for the benefit of Iran?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I think
That's an easy answer.
I think if they're not
That's
going to
a
be
no-brainer.
attacking us and no shipping, I love peace. I'm a peaceful guy. I think we should go with peace.
If they're going to continue to attack Israel on behalf of Iran,
They're
they're
continuing to attack Israel?
Yeah. I believe that this is what they agreed to. All the president said was that the Houthis are no longer going to engage in war. They've given up.
yeah.
And there's no question that they have given up attacking American shipping. A week and a half ago, they put out a statement saying, if we stop attacking them, they will not attack American shipping. That's the only thing on the record, American shipping. Yeah. Now, I don't think we could possibly accept just American shipping because part of what we're doing there is to protect the free passage through the Red Sea so it doesn't disrupt the world economy.
Bingo.
And therefore, if they hit Greek shipping it also becomes very questionable as to what is and what is not American shipping, because your
flags.
it could be under another flag, but it really is your
Flag of convenience.
So,
you're right.
I am sure the president means stop bombing the Red Sea. What's left open, and Israel was not part of this, and Israel is complaining that they were left out again. Israel had no warning that we were going to reach an agreement with the Houthis.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
So the question is, are we going to sit by while they attack Israel? Now, I would be really very opposed to that because we really owe Israel.
Yeah.
We owe Israel for striking back for a year and a half and literally making our arch enemy, Iran, kind of hanging out on its last legs. We didn't do that. We're not the ones who defeated Hezbollah. We're not the ones who drove Assad out of the Syrian government.
And Mayor,
we're not the ones that ripped away all of Iran's proxies.
And Israel knows.
When I say we're not the ones, we gave them a lot of the weapons and a lot of the money, but we didn't commit. God forbid we would commit boots on the ground. I mean, Biden would have had a heart attack.
Yeah. No boots on the ground. No boots on the ground. How many times did you say that, Mayor?
Well, I guess in his demented mind, the doctor must have given him an injection, and he can remember that. No boots on the ground. No boots on the ground. No boots on the ground.
But Israel knows why we didn't tip them off, right? Were they really upset about that?
Very upset. They were on television tonight, all complaining about it.
I mean, I feel we still have potentially holdovers from the Biden and Obama years at the State Department, and somehow this information could have gotten out. And so, without knowing all the facts, I have a strong inclination this was done to protect the integrity of the mission.
We have not really cleaned out the State Department the way we have the Justice Department, the way Hegseth is cleaning out the other agency. And no one loves Marco more than I do, but they're behind. And they probably need it the worst. Even the Justice Department, they need it. They probably need it the worst. They're probably the most anti-American agency in government. They have their own foreign policy that comes out of Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, and basically it's a one world, ridiculously idiotic Marxist foreign policy, which has been a gross failure since the Second World War. Except when Ronald Reagan was there and paid no attention to them. He and George Shultz paid no attention to the State Department. It was him, George Shultz, and he would tell you, I'm not sure I ever once agreed with him.
And he took down the Soviet Union.
I mean, John Kennedy didn't agree with him. Clinton didn't agree with them. And the only one who agreed with them was Obama and Biden because, they're communists too. So I hope this means no attack on Israel. Now, if it doesn't, Israel is certainly capable of taking care of itself and bombing the living daylights out of them. Do you know we bombed them 300 times?
Yes.
Yeah, we bombed them 3 times under Biden and 300 times under Trump.
Well,
in 2.5 years, we bombed them 3 times, even though they bombed us 128 times.
Right. And
killed Americans.
And what did Biden hit?
Biden
returned empty fields.
Hit empty fields because Biden never protected America. Never even thought it was his job.
Right.
Trump did it 300 times in no time.
3 months.
And this is, as Michael Goodwin points out today, this is an example of peace through strength. By bombing them like crazy, we have gotten them to quit. But have we gotten them to quit enough? And are we going to take our foot off the accelerator now? See, I have a theory from being a boxer. When you have them on the ropes, that's when you hit them harder.
Bingo.
When you feel in boxing, when you're going to knock somebody out, you feel it. You actually feel it when your glove hits them. You can feel their legs going out from under them. And you've watched boxing matches when they used to have like real boxing matches. And you can see it. If you look at you want to see the impact of a punch, look at the legs. And the minute you feel the legs wobbling, you just start punching like crazy. Well, the legs of Iran are wobbling right now. This is the time to hit them so hard, they won't know what happened to them. And we can maybe be rid of the Ayatollah. Now, if you want to really make peace, all this stuff you're doing in the Middle East right now, you have Iran around, you're not going to have peace in the Middle East. Just not going to have it. They'll find a way to disrupt it.
Why weren't we our own government more open about Iran's operations and the way they were killing Americans during the Iraq War 15, 20 years ago?
Democrat Party is the biggest financial supporter of the Ayatollah. It's one of their great charities. Who has given Iran more money than who has given the reign of terror more money than Obama and Biden? It goes into I believe without any doubt we've given the reign of terror more money than Ukraine.
Right.
And of course, we don't know how much we gave it because we gave it to them in cash.
Pallets of cash, literally
imagine,
pallets of cash in the middle of the night on big planes.
I must say a couple of the oligarchs in Ukraine would love to have gotten the cash.
Yeah.
But and wouldn't know what to do with it if they did.
Yeah, they're doing just fine there too, right?
I mean, they've gotten a fortune, but it's nothing in comparison to, and there's a great difference. My objection to Ukraine is corruption. and not all that money got where it's supposed to go. But you can't compare Ukraine to the reign of terror.
Well, Iran's going to get nukes because of these people. Iran's going to end up having a nuclear program because of inaction.
Well, Witkoff was almost ready to agree to the Obama deal.
It's like
he was going to agree to their being able to enrich to the point where they can have the peaceful use of nuclear power.
Yeah, they basically just changed.
That was the original agreement that Donald Trump described as the stupidest agreement in the history of the world.
Yeah, they just changed the units basically on the way they presented it, but it ended up being the same.
Yeah, I mean, the minute they can do that, the ability to really inspect them is very, very. It's impossible. It turned out to be. But we don't. Once we go away, we don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They shouldn't have nuclear material at all, which the president has said. The president made it clear. Do we have that clip? The president made it clear on Meet the Press on Sunday when he was asked, when you say not beat nuclear, do you mean complete dismantlement? And he said, yes, complete dismantlement. And she said, well, what about nuclear peaceful use? And he said, I can see no reason why a country that has more oil than it needs for the next 200 years needs peaceful use of nuclear power.
Right. Well, and we'll
so that means
we'll try to get that clip for next hour.
The president is going to meet the expectations that he set. You want to put on?
Oh, we're getting that clip fired up right now. But yeah, that was yesterday in the Oval Office. Mayor, what would you say to people who may be a little bit concerned and with a potential conflict with Iran? Right, there are folks out there, even within our own party, who are calling for more of a restrained approach.
Explain to me why we're afraid of a conflict with Iran.
So,
I mean, haven't they killed enough Americans? So we should get rid of them.
Well,
how many Americans do you have to kill, and we just let you stay there?
Right, and that's the thing, Mayor.
How many families in America are living without their son or daughter because of the Quds Force?
Right, and our own government before President Trump, of course, our own government hasn't been honest with the American people. Right, they haven't been honest with the American people about Iran's direct attacks against American soldiers throughout the Iraq War 15, 20 years ago. And even some of the folks that went over there and saw it firsthand, they come back, and some of these guys, they run for office, and some of these guys, they won't talk about it. And they'll say, oh, well, we're not supposed to talk about that. We're not supposed to talk about that.
As I've said many times, I understand the communist Chinese infiltration in the Democratic Party. I can see it. I can point it out to you anytime it rears its ugly head. It goes way back to the COVID when the president banned any interchange with China early on, and thank God saved probably 500,000 lives by doing that. And they accused him of, oh my God, xenophobia, racism, and they knew he was doing the right thing. That's because they're paid off by China, or they're compromised by China. I mean, what do you need to see to know that? You had a United States senator on the Intelligence Committee who had a Chinese spy with him for 19 years and didn't know it. Didn't know it? I don't know if Diane knew it or she didn't know it. Either way, you think she's the only one? For some reason, they picked on just Diane Feinstein. Or how about the one that was banging the Chinese spy that was with him?
Eric Swalwell.
What was that girl's name?
Fang Fang?
Oh yeah, the one that was going with Fang Fang, and he's still in Congress.
Yeah, he's still running his mouth on MSNBC.
Fang Fang was with him for his good looks.
That's right. Well, do we want to go back and this is President Trump in the Oval Office. I believe we have that clip ready and his message on Iran.
Yes.
This is really crunch time. I would tell you for Iran and for their country, this is a very important time for Iran. This is the most important time in the history of Iran for Iran, and I hope they do what's right. I'd love to see a peace deal, a strong peace deal. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, but I would say that this is the single most important period in the history of Iran, which is a long history, and we want it to be a great country. Let it be a tremendously successful, rich country. They have everything you need. The people are incredible. They have vast amounts of oil and assets. We want it to be a successful country. We don't want to do anything that's going to get in the way of that, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. And if they choose to go a different route, it's going to be a very sad thing. And it's something we don't want to have to do, but we have no choice. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Do you understand that? Okay.
Yeah, I think I understand it, but do they understand it? And let's just show you right now the attack on the capital city of Yemen that happened yesterday. That may have been the coup de grace that got Houthis to say no mas. This is the video of the Sana attack 2, 1 and 2. By
Iranian-backed
that's the
Houthis.
capital city of Yemen.
Yeah,
That's what Tehran will look like.
right. This is after the Houthis had targeted Ben Gurion Airport.
Almost impossible not to do it. You also should know that I told you we did 300 missions. We did 800 strikes, successful strikes. So, for example, the Houthis have probably done 400 strikes against Israel, of which 2 were successful. We did 300 strikes against them, 800 strikes against them, 300 missions, every single one successful. I mean, sometimes I don't think, even with the degradation through Obama and trans and all this other crap about the military, we still have the greatest military in the world. It's not even close in terms of performance. 25% of the missiles that the Hamas would fire toward Israel would kill Palestinians. So in order to engage in war, they got to be willing to, to kill a couple of thousand of their own people because they don't know how to fire. They don't know how to fire the damn weapons. You think that happens in Israel, on Israel's side? I mean, how many missiles did Israel fire that backfired and blew up Israelis? 0. So I don't know why we're so reluctant to use our power against Iran. I mean, they've been skirting by for over 40 years, killing Americans, taking them hostage, killing Americans, spreading terrorism all throughout the world. You might not have had a September 11 if you didn't have a reign of terror. So it's terrible to say, but you have the opportunity to take them out now. You're never going to have a better opportunity. I don't know. They guess they could be a little weaker. I don't know what that would be. It is quite possible if we deliver, not even what the president is talking about is almost apocalyptic. But what I had in mind was taking out their nuclear facilities, not taking out their cities. In fact, here's a deal I would make with them. Just get the hell out of there and let us just take all your civilians out and give us a week and we'll make sure you don't have nuclear facilities. They won't be there anymore. And then we come in and inspect anytime we want. And then we can have peace. But your sovereignty has to be sublimated to us because you're not trustworthy. You can't be trusted. You're homicidal maniacs. There's only one bigger homicidal maniac in the world than the Ayatollah, and that's Xi Jinping. And no one has killed more of his own people than Xi Jinping. The Ayatollah is number 2. When you start killing your own people, as well as many of us, Xi Jinping leads him on killing others too. Think of COVID. And if you think COVID wasn't on purpose, the spreading of it, then I don't know, you don't have much of a brain. There are still people fighting the theory that it came out of the Wuhan lab. They're still looking for the bats in Wuhan. They don't accept the scientific fact that bats don't exist in that climate. They're 1,000 miles south of Wuhan.
Well, yeah, the bat story.
Yeah, they eat bats.
They eat bats, and the
They eat bats in Wuhan.
somehow that meant
People in Wuhan were trying to figure out how do you. I mean, they eat some strange things in China, but eating bats, that was the first Fauci story.
Ozzy ate a bat. Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, that's very authoritative.
That's very.
But what did he do next after the bat? Right, Fauci went through a whole litany of.
Well, you don't think that Fauci was an agent of the Chinese Communists?
By definition, he was. By definition, he was.
It away to me, and I was an expert on ferreting out Russian spies back in the 70s and 80s, and when I worked for Ronald Reagan. Here's the statement. He was asked about the Chinese, spreading COVID, and his defense was, "Oh, the Chinese would never kill their own people." When he said that, I literally fell off my chair. There is no nation in the world that's killed more of its own people than Red China. It is possible that there might not be a nation in the history of the world that's killed more of its own people than Red China. Remember the girl babies they used to kill? It could be they've killed 100 million of their own people. Only a Chinese communist or a complete blithering fool would say the Chinese would worry about taking losses at home. And Fauci's not a blithering fool. He's a horrible little creep. That's an embarrassment to my background. Little rat. And we should be eternally grateful to Robert Kennedy Jr. for exposing him instead of going after the guy. But you want a guy who's anti-communist, read Robert Kennedy's book and read his analysis of communism. You'd be shocked. You'd be shocked because, of course, he has a background as a so-called progressive Democrat, but not about communism. He's one of the few Democrats left with a very clear view that communists are just as dangerous to us as they are to the Democrats and to the world. So the air traffic problems that we have in America are really significant. And this has deteriorated over a very, very long period of time. And we have to really thank the president for getting us a guy like Sean Duffy, who I really know very, very well from the time I campaigned for him in 2010 with his family of 50. He has 50 children. Well, it seems like that. Duffy is all over this to try to turn this around, and boy, that's what it needs. This needs like a Trump treatment or a Giuliani treatment, not like Mayor Adams, who is defending the Administration for Children's Services while kids are dying left and right. When it happened under my administration, I took responsibility for it, and I created a whole new agency that ended up being the model for taking care of children. And the guy who did that for me, Nick Scapetter, is turning over in his grave watching this. The man was a brilliant man and a foster child himself and a great lawyer. And he sacrificed all of that to run the Administration for Children's Services and created a model of how to do it. And now, seven kids gone in 1 year. And you see the conditions under which they're gone. In one case, the dead bodies were in the apartment for 2 weeks, and one little eight-month-old baby survived on chocolate with the dead bodies there. And the mayor says, well, they're making the right decisions. They would go to the door, knock on the door, and not get an answer. With a woman inside who had a record of massive child abuse. Well, you don't get an answer. You go get the police and you break in. Or you're too lazy to do that. In fact, you would want the opportunity to break in because you'd be able to get to see how she's taking care of a house. That'd give you an indication how she's taking care of a kid. If you cared about the kid. Mayor Adams, don't play the defend them game. I could have done that with the welfare agency when Elisa Escuero died. I still feel guilty for that. And that's why I changed the whole damn place. Now you go change it and stop having to make a bunch of woke decisions and don't deny it. They're They're a bunch of lefty jackasses. Well, on that note, we're going to pray for all those children tonight, as well as all the people who are involved in war and people in Iran and Ukraine and Israel. And we're going to pray for those cardinals who are making a decision that goes way beyond the Catholic Church for the good of the world and for bringing God back in a big way into our world. Well, God bless America, and go over to X right now, because we're going to continue and we got a lot more to cover.